and we can shadow or
I just want to say hello. I joined yesterday or this morning the contributor channel. I'm coming from Google's Gen AI startup, um, and I'm looking at the projects uh, to see,
awesome.
some interesting place to contribute.
I recognize your name now. I think I processed your onboarding not so long ago.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it, the email earlier. Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. You're welcome. Thanks for joining. Um, yeah, so Daniel, do you want to sort of intro to what we're potentially going to have a look at, or do you want me to intro or
Yeah, sure. And again, this was more of a if no one has anything, we can pick this up to do something, but more than happy to give it over to the community to help find something, or if anyone's interested in pairing up on something, that comes first. Otherwise, we were looking at the contributors platform, which I'm sure a number of you are familiar with, but that's contributors.gitlab.com. And we've been talking about doing static pages on here because we're going to do moving over some of our recognition pages over to the platform that used to be on the about.gitlab.com page. So basically the marketing website for GitLab, we kind of want to move some of that content over to the platform. That way we can centralize all of our contributor recognition, our awards and things on here. So that's going to involve creating some new static pages. And my question to Lee was kind of how does one contribute to the platform? Not sure how in-depth the documentation is on that end, and for someone as inexperienced as myself, to pick up and run with. And then what other potential areas are there to contribute on the platform for the rest of the community? Um, I thought that could be a cool thing to start sharing more of those issues.
yeah, the static one's a really good example as well, right? Because although like you've got sort of an engineering background, right, Daniel, but at the same time your role now is less engineering, and you're sort of I hope it's fair to say, like, you don't really want to dive too deep. Like, you spun up in a development environment, but like Markdown is more something that you feel comfortable doing and not taking too much of your time away from more like strategic stuff. So it's really nice to be able to contribute with Markdown and not be sort of get diving really into the weeds with like Ruby and Vue.js, etc.
Right. At this point, it's been a long time for Ruby on Rails for me. So, just spinning up a dev container for that was fun enough this morning for me.
So yeah, we'll touch briefly on where with that. So I'm gonna say that you got on pretty well with that. Had a little bit of trouble because you tried to use Docker Desktop initially, but because of the sort of licensing around Docker Desktop, we're sort of more confined to use like something like Rancher. Can you remind me what the other? I think Podman's maybe another option, Daniel, or
Is it pronounced Colima? Colima?
yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So when switching from Docker Desktop to Rancher, you then have these multiple contexts. I don't pretend to be a Docker or container expert, so having to switch contexts, etc. But I'm going to say that within an hour or two and like a bit of duo chat, etc. You were able to get it up and running, right?
Yeah, and I am impressed of AI chat being able to walk through configuration on a new project. So that's probably the first time I've put AI to the test on here's the documentation for an open source project. Can you help me, get up and running to run it
Awesome.
locally?
I was going to call that out actually just to say hopefully the documentation was pretty good, and I really like that you managed to use like AI with the documentation. You weren't
Right.
just firing, oh, here's an error or how do I get it running, but you actually fed it the docs. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and I think what's
So
what's interesting on that end is that when you run into something that would be beyond the scope of the documentation for the project, AI can sort of take over with what, like now let's move into setting up Rancher desktop, right? So that's that's not really within the documentation scope of the contributors platform documentation, but now AI can take over and guide a little bit on that end. So I thought that
Yeah,
was kind of interesting.
and that's a great point, because I mentioned to you, right, that we could consider updating the docs here to actually call out that if you're a GitLab team member, that you probably shouldn't be using Docker Desktop. But like you say, it's like, how far do you go into these specific cases? You know, you don't want to start telling someone which engine to use, and if you're on Linux, do this, if you're on Windows, this. So it's nice that you can kind of supplement the docs with a bit of AI. So on the Markdown front, so there's a couple of things I was just going to demonstrate really quickly. So the user guide is, we haven't put like a big navigation menu item or anything for it yet. We've got one or two places where we link to the user guide. For example, from the leaderboard, if you're looking at the scores, these numbers all seem a bit random. So, you know, you're looking, and this question mark will take you into the user guide and gives you a bit of information about how the points and the scoring works. And then kind of just takes you through each of the screens. And this is just a markdown file that's then rendered using Vue.js. We also actually pull in the README from the project, so you can actually view that within the platform itself. And I'm sure there's one or two other static. Haven't we got like previous heroes, if I've spelled that right? So hero program, which has been kind of discontinued now. So there's the page for that up there. And at some point we'll find a nice way. In fact, I lie. We have got a link, haven't we, to the user guide up here. So yeah, we've got a few bits and pieces, and I think if I go back to the README, yeah, that's here. We do talk a little bit about static content. So we explain where to put it and kind of how to access it through the front end, essentially. We've got an example. We explain which Vue component is used to render the documentations, the what we call it, npm, like JavaScript library that we use to do the rendering, and that we've got like a customization to handle kind of manipulating the paths to make it work. I'm trying to think how to explain that. Yeah, just to make it work when it's being rendered in the contributor platform rather than just within GitLab or some kind of code repository itself. So I hope if you're happy to do so, Daniel, I can kind of like hand it over, and you'll maybe show us, rather, I was actually on contributors to gitlab.com there, but you can show us your local host one to show that it's up and running. And with that hint as to where you need to put your markdown file, you'll maybe start with just creating a hello world markdown or something in there and see if it renders, and kind of work away from there.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. So let me screen share then.
Okay. And forgive me, I can't remember now. When you introed this, did you mention what the static page was that you were?
No, so and here's it locally, but here's the live site. So we're going to have a static page for what we're calling notable contributors. So we're having a rebrand of the GitLab MVP to the title of notable contributor. We have a new logo from the GitLab's design team. This is something that we announce in each release post, each monthly post for GitLab. We pick one or more winners of community contributors to highlight. We usually do a little write-up. We can link out to your company sites or profiles, give a shout out on what your contributions were and your recognition from the team. So we want to move, so we're in this rebrand of MVP to notable contributor. We want to get that static content here on the platform. I think we want to ideally get some of that history of the past MVPs over here, and then whether that's a new list of like formerly known as MVP, or how we want to lay that out, and then moving forward with the new winners as notable contributors every month. highlight them here. That's the initial iteration. We've also, Lee and I have talked about, wouldn't it be cool if you could make nominations for the winners right through the platform as like a future iteration too? But not something for the first go.
Yeah, I think figuring out as well how we want to, like a static page is great to start with, right? But then going forwards, I guess we'll want whether it's a YAML or a JSON, or whether we actually have a database table and something a bit more dynamic and a bit more magic under the hood. But for now, just to like, rather than us making changes to it where it currently lives, it makes sense as part of the rebrand to just move it across, keep it really simple at first as a static page.
And just to show also, because so if you're familiar with our release posts, we always have that right here, this little section down here with this is the old MVP logo. We have a new one, and just that little write-up blurb we do every month. So,
and I guess it's that MVP link that if you click on that,
yeah,
that's the page that's a little bit, what are we going to call it, like dated and a little bit like, I mean, I don't think we're intending on doing anything hugely fancy to kick off with the static page, to be honest. But we're aware, like, you know, definitely the logo is a bit old school, and that's where this kind of started. And once we get it moved over, yeah, as Daniel said, we can iterate.
Yeah, and maybe do like profile pictures for all the winners too, or something like that. But yeah, again, just first priority is getting it off the marketing website and onto the platform, new logo, and take it from there.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So let's remind myself what I'm doing here. So I have VS Code up. So I do have the local platform here. Okay.
Perfect.
And then I have my VS Code working. So this took me in the back before this call some time of setting up the Docker with Rancher desktop container, getting all that configured, but I think good to go here. So Lee, you're calling out the area of the documentation. I think it was under public docs.
So we actually have some magic here. So it's the README from the main project root actually gets kind of copied into the public assets at the deployment stage, if that makes sense. So it's just the README that my brain can't see. Of course I can't, because you're within the container. It's a little bit of a weird one. If you open up a terminal, I'm sure someone here that's a little bit more familiar will find a better way to do this. So the way that I would open it is I would type code and then .. And then if you start typing README in caps and then autocomplete, you should be able to tab it that will do it. So yeah, the container launches inside of the contributors folder within the project, because that's where the Rails app is, it's where the Vue.js app is. But if you want to work on like the GitLab CI.yaml or the README, or there's a few things that live in the root, then you just kind of have to go up a level essentially. I slightly regret that decision to put the Rails app in a subfolder, but there was kind of like consideration, if we were to deploy the Vue.js front end separately to the Rails app, then we'd have like each of those in subfolders, and then, you know, all the other content, like the pipelines and other stuff. I just didn't really want it all in the same folder. So, but it does cause a few fun things like this. So yeah, in here, if you search for static, I think is where the little bit of blurb is on how the static content works. And the key really is just where the content needs to be placed, and then the URL that you need to visit to actually render it, if that makes sense. And again, remember in here, because you're already mounted in that contributors folder, if you know what I mean, then you just need to go into public and docs.
Right. So I'm already within contributors now. So when I go public docs here, I'm following this here.
Bingo.
Okay. Okay, and then it's rendering to docs markdown file name. Okay. So we're basically just adding a new markdown file, but I'm placing it in public docs.
Exactly.
Okay. And I am going to just call it, we've called the award notable contributors singular, I believe. So I'm going to stay with that. And then, okay. Anything else I had to do with?
So I would put whatever, just a hello world or whatever you want to do in there, just so that we can sort of see if that page actually gets rendered if you try and hit it.
Yeah. Save. I'm on a small screen here in a phone booth, so my Zoom sharing tools are making me crazy. And then, so that is under, what did we say? That was under, would I go to doc or do I have to go to?
So if you go to the user guide top right hand corner, that will sort of point you in the right place, if that makes sense, and then you can figure it out quite easily from there.
Okay, awesome.
Easy as that, hey?
Yeah, no, that's cool. I can see, yeah, and I like how I can have these new. I really appreciate. I know whoever added the dark mode to the site. I really appreciate that. I know. I think that was a community member.
Yeah, it was absolutely.
Okay.
So I guess you've got a new like image, new logo for the top. I'm not sure like how great that's gonna. Is it like a banner, or have we got a logo and a banner? What have we got?
Okay, let me pull that. Let me pull up the file there. So let me first figure out where that is in GitLab, because I know we were talking about. Did I link that in the issue?
If you need me to find it, let me know, because I know I've had an email. I think it was earlier today or last night
from the designer. Yeah, I know I linked it. Yeah, I think it's here. Because I think I requested the SVG and PNG files.
Yeah, I just couldn't remember. So because we're rendering like a markdown file in, I'm going to say in the middle of the screen, we just need to like, we're not going to be able to go full width, if that makes sense. So
Right.
I think that will look okay though across like,
that's like the full banner.
Centered, if you know what I mean. I think it will. Yeah. We'll find out. We'll find out.
And I think we have another. So that's the hero banner, achievement badge, dashboard emoji. The actual logo is smaller, like this much.
Cool. Okay.
And then I think that's what we had for the release post banner. And this was an example with like for the release post to be able to put some restriction. All right. So I think do you want to start with the hero banner and see what that would look like?
Well, so you're thinking of editing the previous heroes page to add that banner? No, sorry, it's called a hero banner. It's nothing to do with heroes. Okay,
sorry, yeah.
So the naming threw me off. Yeah. Let's try it. Let's try it. Absolutely.
And then would I want the PNG or the SVG here?
That's a great question. So the SVG looks way smaller. So I'm. Can you embed SVG in Markdown? I'm going to Google that quickly. Embed SVG. It might depend on the renderer. Maybe we just give it a shot and see.
Yeah, maybe just try it and see.
Okay, well, I've got both options here, so we can try it either way.
Yeah,
okay.
let's give it. Right, so now, this is one thing that I can't remember exactly where they go, but I think we'll figure it out fairly easily. We can always look at the previous heroes markdown page to see how we reference like the relative path to the image, and but it looks like you can see there's actually an images subfolder in the docs folder there, so I guess all of the images are currently in the heroes folder, but these ones, I guess, we'll figure out if we either just want to put them in images or if we want a subfolder for.
Yeah, do you want to do what kind of structure are you looking for here? Do you want to do a subfolder for the notable
I think it'd be a good
contributors?
idea if we're potentially going to end up with like a profile badge or whatever you want to like a photo for some of them as well in the future. I think it'd be a good idea.
Hyphens, or you want underscores here?
Oh, great question. I think hyphen,
Okay.
but we can figure that out
Okay.
later if we need to.
Can always iterate. All right. And then let me add. I might just go ahead and where was I? Where did I have that folder? We said we're in play with the SVG first and see what that
Yeah,
looks
let's
like.
give it a go. I mean, it's 10 more than 10 times smaller. So if we can use it, it's it'll be better.
Okay.
Yeah, about hyphen or underscore. It's a bit interesting, I think. The handbook uses hyphens and the official product docs use underscores.
I'm always a hyphen myself, so I'll stick with the hyphen for now.
Cool. It looks like we've kind of gone with that for the markdown files themselves. I think the images, I just took the same format as what they were wherever I sort of stole them from. So there's a bit of a mix, although it's fairly standard. Should we just call it like banner.svg or something simple?
Yep. Just keep it. We haven't seen the folder. I'll just keep it a banner.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that good?
So then maybe if you want to go back to the previous heroes and you can just kind of copy, excuse me, copy like one of the references out of there. So like that exactly that. Yeah. And
just gonna move this to the top for a second and say banner.
Awesome. Keep our fingers crossed. I'm not expecting it to work for some reason. Oh wow! Awesome.
Wow. Okay, and it's quite long. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know whether
You might be able to adjust the width using curly brackets and defining the width in there.
See, my thinking is though that obviously depending on your screen size, the content of the contributor platform like adjusts, if that makes sense. So I don't think we could even use like a fixed width. I think we would need to probably use CSS to kind of like force the content block, if you were, not to kind of break out of its I don't know exactly what the term is. I don't know whether we want to circle back to that and maybe we'll try and sort of either experiment or use AI to see if it can help us to know how we might be able to do that. You could like cheat and just modify the actual width of, oh no, because it's an SVG. So it's not quite as easy as a PNG to just modify the width for the time being. But I think that's almost all right for us to kind of, I don't know if you like just want to start adding the content and copying it across, if you want to what was your next step, Daniel?
Hadn't thought that far.
Same.
Yeah. Wasn't expecting it to work at all. We can start looking at what happens when we move over some of the old content, like putting a list together of the names, and then deal with, because the image, diving into that rabbit hole is probably going to take considerable time. But at the same, I'm also thinking that if we have to make any changes on the design, we have to get back to the designer and there's a lot of back and forth. So the sooner we come up with that solution, the
Yeah,
better too.
I don't think we'll need them to make any changes, if that makes
Okay.
sense. I think we will be able to, like looking at it here, it does make me wonder, like with the color of the navigation bar and the color of this, like, you know, what would our ultimate, like, how would you, if you had, like, technically, if we could do anything, how would you want this to look, if that makes sense?
I think it was hard in the mockups to know how off the color of the nav bar was from the logo. Seeing it here firsthand, it looks, I mean, especially seeing the, I can't tell, is it that,
To me, it looks
close?
kind of bluer, the navigation bar, and purpler, the sort of the banner.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, is this, yeah, you're right. It's just slightly purpler, if that's a word.
The
dark side.
technical term, yeah.
The technical term. And then because you have the light fading in between, I think that stands out a little bit too. If there was maybe a little more white space, it's probably not as big of a deal. And then I think your other question had been what happens in dark mode. So
yeah, so that's what I'm trying to feel. Like, I think we don't want to try and blend it with the navigation bar, right? So we don't want to get rid of that white space above it. If anything, like you're saying, add a little bit below. And same thing width-wise, would you say, like, we don't necessarily want to span the whole width? We're happy to have like the borders either side.
Yeah, I think so. I think not trying to make it keep the nav bars full width and then have the banner have some white spacing on the edges and the top. Cool. Will probably look a little better than.
I think that would be the easiest technically to achieve. So I'm really glad that that's what you.
I'm not a designer though, so I'm open to any suggestions from anybody. But that's my take on it.
Awesome, cool. So yeah, I don't know if you, like you say, if you want to, Stefan, did you have some sort of views on that?
I'm playing these days with Nuxt content, and I have a kind of markdown demo. If we put that, let's say, replacing the hello world, we can start from this, start with at least an idea of how markdown is rendered. And this would be assuming that there is a kind of equivalent to Nuxt content package.
Yes, I'm not 100% off the top of my head what that is, but I'm assuming that's the equivalent of what we're using here is called Marked, and that's the Markdown renderer that we're using in Vue.js.
Yeah, I don't know, but I guess if I will put here in chat and
perfect, thank you. Yeah, Daniel, if you copy and paste some of that. Now, what I'm trying to remember, maybe you even want to use Duo Chat or Claude or something to try and convert. Like if you just copy the top half a dozen or however many, just maybe the 17.x MVPs, and we'll convert that to Markdown so that we can paste that over the Hello World and see how it renders essentially.
Right, and do you want me to add in what we have from Stephen here? The
I didn't see that yet, but let me just have a look.
See if this works.
Oh, okay. So you've just got some example. Please do just to demonstrate what our Markdown renderer will do with that stuff. Yeah, that's great.
All right, so I'm going to put that under the image, and I'm going to get rid of Hello World, and let's see if that works too. Yep. Okay.
So there's some stuff where I think as we use different Markdown things, we'll want to tweak the CSS a little bit. Like where there's a code block, I I'm not a huge, like, I feel like there should be a little bit more of padding or margin, and I prefer to have like a bit of background shading or a bit more different coloring and stuff. But I think we kind of will cross those bridges as we cross, well, yeah, as we come to them essentially. But for this, I guess we're either going to try like a tabular form, or just a bullet point list or something initially for the.
Yeah, what did you use on the heroes page? Did you do a table?
Yeah. I mean, so what would we have? I guess we'd have the version number and like
Yes.
the name and a link to that profile.
Yeah, I think we had two. We just
So-
had the version
Two
number,
columns,
date
yeah.
as
Yeah.
a one column link to the release post, and this would go right to the jump link.
Cool.
And then this was to, I believe, GitLab profile. Yep.
So it's just finding the easiest way of copy. Like I can never quite remember what tools. Like if you paste that into like a GitLab issue into the Markdown editor, like does it convert that into a table, or will you need to use GeoChat or something to convert it, or is it easier just to?
I was going to take it from the source, right? What is? Oh, actually, this is not gonna. This won't show because this is gonna
think
pull
it
from the
reads it.
data.
Yeah, it's
file,
reading
yeah.
it from like a YAML or something.
Yeah, I've put the YAML file into the Zoom chat for you.
I think it's this one.
Or Google is
hold
faster.
on.
But from a really old commit.
Yeah, so this is our YAML file where we have every documented MVP with the release version, the name, the GitLab username, the date of the release post, and then the link there, which is using, and it's not a full link because we are on about.gitlab.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's rendering it this way. Okay, so for our purposes, we could start with just taking.
So it's a question of whether you just want to take a couple and do it by hand, or whether, like, say, take a bigger chunk and give
it to Claude or
yeah.
Duo. And
yeah.
I kind of wonder what would happen if we did. We can see what will happen if it. Do we think Duo can? SI view a list of.
I know that it has access to files in like a merge request. I'm not 100% sure. Like
I was just gonna copy and paste it because I don't think it does.
Oh, okay. Yeah, fair.
Release post version number with. It's gonna get the links wrong, but that's fine for now.
The good thing is that you can just almost like search and replace like / releases with the full URL, or however we want to do it. So I get this problem. Like you've got to give it a prompt to tell it not, so that it doesn't render the markdown, if that makes sense. You want the
I have
the source for the markdown.
I'm gonna have to wait. It'll finish, and I'm like, "Can you give me this in copy pastable markdown?"
Yeah.
And then, actually,
are you now regretting giving it the entire list, Daniel?
Yeah, and it went with names and then versions, which I think is the reverse of how it is on the site.
Yeah, my brain kind of expects the number, the version on the left.
The number on the left? Okay. No, we don't go back the full history. How far back does it go? Oh, actually, it goes all the way back to 5.
Impressive, huh?
Okay, yeah. And I know a couple of you, Lee and Nicholas, are both on here in this list somewhere. Let's do a run out on Steam.
15.7, 16.7, and 17.0.
Nice.
At least that's me. I don't know the versions from Lee. But I think 15.0 was run with the CIM, or was that 14.0?
I think it might have been 15. It doesn't seem that long yet. 15.0 and 13.12, I think I was. Wow. I mean, 13.12, we're now on 17.12. So that's 4 years ago. Wow. It's insane.
Yeah, time is really flying.
You know, for some reason I thought it'd be quick to do the raw markdown, but it's also taking longer than I anticipated.
It's
So I could
probably
also
just the way it. Yeah, true. Yeah,
I'm gonna
just
grab a
take it.
chunk for now.
Yeah.
Yes. How do I can expand this now, can I? That's a new feature.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So what did I grab here? I'll just start with this.
Yeah, my first contribution is also already 4 years ago. Ah, time's really flying.
Don't worry, it gets faster every year older you get as well.
All right, so let's play with this table here. And actually, I'm sorry, Lee. I'm gonna have to go name version for now, just because that's the markdown copy.
Yeah,
I
it's
got.
fine. I mean, by all means, I mean you
Yeah.
could probably remove like all this dummy sort of text as well now, if you know what I mean, and just
Did not copy that right. Hold on a second. Let's go back.
I think because the stream was still coming through, like every time you tried to highlight something, it kind of like unhighlighted it.
You're right. Okay. I'm just gonna grab a chunk. Whoop. I got a nice chunk there. Okay. See that.
Looks like you've crashed it anyway. So good
Yeah.
work, Daniel.
Instead of missing. Do I need an end of the table, or does the table just sort of?
It looks
The
like there is an
table
end.
just-
Oh, sorry, you don't need an end of the table, just an end of
Okay.
each line.
Just the
Yeah.
end of each line. Okay, let's see how that is. Where is our local site here? Okay.
Oh yeah, you have
Double
the-
head in there, but
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, something that your first line isn't matching up.
Yeah, I missed. Let's see.
Yeah,
I just
double header.
oh yeah, because it copied pasted it as well, didn't it, from the chat?
Yep.
So cool.
Yep. Okay. Nice. And just because the whole point is the rename. And I don't know if we want to keep. I don't know if we want to keep the old history as the MVP name and then just use the new name moving forward, or how we want to do that. But either way.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
a
you
good
keep it
question.
all-
It kind of ties in quite closely with the conversation we've been having about the hackathon page, doesn't it, Daniel? You know, about like it'd be nice for this page to explain a bit about what the notable contributor is, as well as maybe a bit about the history of the MVP as well. But it's trying to figure out how to cram all that stuff onto like one page. Like, do you what do you have at the top? What do you have at the bottom? And yeah, or do you try and have some kind of tabs or paging or?
Right. I think the other thing for me is I don't want the like history to be lost of like if the top section is the notable contributor and like everyone from let's say release 18 onwards, I don't want to like the rest of the history to not be part of that. So
No,
I
I think like we sort of agreed, didn't we, on the hackathon leaderboard that we really want to see the entire leaderboard. We don't really want it paginated. I think the same thing goes here. I kind of want to see the history since the beginning of time. I don't really want to paginate it. I don't really want to get rid of all the old MVPs and just have the new notable contributors. It's really nice to still recognize, you know, from version 5, which is what, 12 years ago now, I guess, that we've still got.
This is 2000 March 2013 was
12 years ago. Wow.
And this is what a release post looked like back then. Not much, just some.
Oh, wow.
I love it. A lot of improvements.
Oh.
Yeah, so I think what we want to do is my proposal would probably be that we just use the new name and all
Yep.
the former name, everything just goes by the new name. They can still call themselves MVP on LinkedIn or whatever, wherever they want to do it.
Yep.
That's all fine. We'll have a little note in the description of what this is. We can just say formerly known as MVP or something. Um,
You introduce that, do you think, at the top before the list or at the bottom after, or?
yeah, what did we have in the, gosh, where's that page? It was like a real, I don't know, I had this probably a year or two ago. It was just said each month GitLab recognizes one or more community contributors as MVPs to be featured in the release post. Nominations are on a rolling process, so you can be nominated and supported at any time. And then, oh, we didn't even link to where this happened. So yeah, I'd probably keep like a really short, like 1 or 2 line summary
Yeah.
on here, and then
Were
get
you
into the
thinking of
list.
were you thinking of expanding it a bit, maybe in the I was gonna say like having a separate docs page or in the user guide or README or whatever, or
For like the
I,
selection process.
yeah, I suppose we've got the handbook, we've got that
Yes.
documented in, I guess,
And
right?
it's extensive. There's a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is too much to try to cram onto.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would probably keep this on the handbook for now. I mean, this is just more of
Perfect.
a,
Cool.
yeah.
So yeah, a couple of sentence intro that does mention formerly known as, and a link to maybe the nomination issue
Yeah,
and
yeah. So
the
let's
handbook
put that on.
page, and then
Actually, let me just,
the table.
I know we always include it in the latest one. So yeah, I
So
think we would just include the issue where this can happen right now. Obviously, this is going to change starting in 18. So
yeah,
that's right.
it's really interesting actually. This is obviously the first time this has happened, right? Because 17.0 is when you started this new kind of rolling process.
Yeah.
So are we still gonna start from scratch for 18, do you think? So like all I was thinking is obviously the people that got nominated like back at 17.0 have kind of remained on here to
Right.
potentially get, but then the people who have only just been nominated aren't going to get that same sort of opportunity to, so I wasn't sure what but then I
Great
guess it is
question.
nice to start with a kind of clean slate, and we could always, carry. Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really considered that until it happened.
I had one thought on that one because I had thought about this problem. So I thought we could, let's say we find somebody who has been nominated, and we did this. I actually did this at the start of 17. We had a couple people, Nicholas included, who had been nominated in 16.11, and then we moved to this new issue process and basically moved them over. So like
Got
the
it. Got it.
PM that had made the nomination, then I let them know that I was moving them over. So what I thought we could do now is say that there's people who were nominated at the start of 17, like there's a few here. They didn't win maybe up until this point. If we move into the 18 cycle, we could also reach out to the nominators, like reach out to Jocelyn, reach out to James, reach out to Paulina and say, hey, we're starting the new GitLab MVP 18 cycle issue. Would you still like to keep this nomination rolled over into the next issue? And then if they say yes, we move them over, something like that.
Yeah, and I guess the ones that were awarded like MVP, like there's no real
Right.
need to as much as
Right.
people are more than
So,
welcome to
yeah.
nominate them again for
if
the next release cycle.
If they won this cycle, I won't like automatically move them over to be, to the next cycle. And I don't think we'd automatically move someone over unless the nominator is like, yes, I want to continue to make this nomination. They've continued to do these contributions, XYZ. Let's roll them over. Something
Awesome.
like that.
Awesome. Thanks for letting me put you on the spot, Daniel.
Yeah, so that's also why I really want us to get the all the changes done before 18, because it's essentially we're going to be trying to do a whole new issue for the nomination process, have the new site up here, change everything in the release post. So I kind of want us to get it actually, if we can get the new logo page up by 1711, then I feel like I have a little breathing room ahead of 18 because 18 is a major release and that usually gets a little bit more page views than the minor releases.
Got it. Awesome.
So yeah, so I think we got, at least we now can get a static page up. We got to figure out the logo sizing wise. We have some ideas on the table, come up with a summary. I think we have the basics going here. I guess one other question for the platform lay would be, how would you navigate to this page? So let's say I was just on the main page, I arrive on contributors.gitlab.com. How do I find that notable contributor page from here?
Yeah, so I know again this ties into a conversation we were having about like the hackathon and how we kind of want to have the hackathon content from the marketing site on here as well. And we're trying to figure out, well, we don't really want it to take up 2 spots on the global navigation. So
Right.
do we change it into a drop down, or do we have tabs, or do we have a collapsible section, or there's lots of different. I think you've probably not got any data seeded.
I haven't seeded the database, so this isn't going to load, but yeah,
I think
we have
that's
just
why.
a straight leaderboard, and then for everyone on the call, we have the GitLab hackathon page on the marketing site. So we kind of want to take the logo, the ticker, a briefer. There's a lot of heavy text here. A briefer summary of content or instructions on scoring, get that into single view, have the full leaderboard. We have a whole separate issue discussing that process, but as to Lee's point is, it'd be nice to just have one click of hackathon view than to have like multiple navigation options.
And again, like obviously depending on screen size and other things,
Yeah.
like I kind of feel like we probably could. That it does warrant a global nav item for like notable contributors. It's a bit of a lengthy heading. So again, that's another fun thing to deal with. I also wonder whether like
awards could be something, maybe like trying to think of something, a simpler word, and then, or if there's like something that had
do you know what? That's a really interesting. That's because do you want to go to maybe flick back to the production the .com platform? Yeah, just so there's some content. Because if you go to rewards at the moment, I know awards and rewards aren't exactly the same thing, but this page does show when someone gets like the MVP or the notable contributor award. I'm guessing you're going to have to go back a couple of pages.
I think the last release was actually, you're right. That would have happened recently with did we give Alexei the rewards yet is my next question. If not,
possibly
I gotta check in on that. Okay. Otherwise the month before, I know eventually we'll see an MVP in here. There's a lot of other.
But a bit like how on a user profile we split out the, we've pulled events out separately recently. So I'm wondering, like, even this page, we could maybe show it some love, and we could separate out like the MVPs or something. Yeah, it is a bit of clutter, especially if we're going to put an intro and some other stuff, but they are similar in a way, right? Because this is where we've rewarded and recognized people because they've leveled up or because they've been nominated. Tell me you've actually taken down the live site as well. Let's check that it's still working for me.
Is it just me?
Yeah, it's still working fine for me. I don't know how you managed to. But yeah, I'm guessing that's not a good idea at this point in time. I'm not quite sure how you managed to. When you're trying to
page 7 is also broken for me. Page 8 works again.
Page 7 is triggering a bug here. Fun things we can discover on these calls.
I'm gonna have a quick look if it's the API call. Yeah, you get 500 on that page. That's interesting. I'm going to have a quick look at the logs now. Get this there. But I think it's an interesting idea that I've just randomly had there on the fly, but probably like too much to, do you know what I mean? Like it won't allow us to combine the information about what the notable contributor and MVP award is, and like, yeah, just trying to cram too much stuff on here. But in future, we are going to have to look at opportunities like leaderboard, right? The leaderboard is the user, like individual contributor leaderboard. Then we've got organizations, which is the organization leaderboard. Then we've got hackathon, which is the hackathon leaderboard. So we could kind of almost consolidate those. And
right. Yeah.
There's a few opportunities there. So
we could even, I mean, just throwing it out there, but where was that? We have the badge icon for the dashboard emoji. What is this one? We could do like an emoji icon instead of a word in the bar, and like it's like, oh, what's that cool star to click on? And then you know that's you know, like instead of saying notable contributor, because I think that's going to be too long to try to get into the nav bar.
Yeah, I'm more and more thinking about the sort of drop down approach. So you imagine if leaderboard was a drop down and had like individual leaderboard, organization leaderboard, and hackathon leaderboard, and then rewards or awards or something was a drop down and had like notable contributors and then just like rewards or something else. So yeah, if we were to start sort of grouping them together.
Or like recognition, just something that encompasses the rewards,
exactly,
the rewards, the awards, and then and as a glimpse into the future of the year, we are looking to have a portfolio that would highlight some of the top contributions to the product and other contributions to GitLab. So it would be like actually being able to see and have a little write up about this is the contributor, this is this great feature they added, sort of what we do in the release post, but having something like a portfolio on the platform where you could see like all those great contributions. Right.
We were talking about like contributor of the quarter almost, like that, weren't we? So whether that be that we take, or at the moment we have top annual contributors actually as well, which I guess we're going to probably need to migrate over to here as well.
I'm sorry, what was that one?
So we've got, I don't know what you search for. I think it is like top GitLab top contributors we've got, and the annual.
Yeah. Yeah, we have this too, which was this. I mean, that's a sort of essentially how far off from the leaderboard is that for the year? Can I do? Can I do fiscal years or no? If I do past years, it's just 1 year back. Okay.
I think the only thing is I quite like having this as a static thing because of like if we change scoring, if a user like gets blocked or deleted, or like there's certain things that could happen. There's
like the history keeping records of things from the past. Yeah, we essentially could just have like a single drop down that would have like the awards and the top contributors and portfolio, like a history tab of something. There's some catchy name we can use that would encompass it all.
Nicholas, I think you I interrupted you, sorry.
Yeah, also for the top annual contributors, the contributor platform doesn't have all the data to show all the historic ones, because I think you didn't fill back all the previous years, but only until a specific point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, true. You're right. Yeah, because this goes back. How far does this one go back? To 2018. And Lee, do you know offhand how much backfill data you have on here?
So I think I only really went back to like 2020, like January 2024, but it's one of those weird things where some like old data can come in, like if somebody makes a change, like updates an MR or an issue or adds a comment, some of the old data does end up coming in. But although I don't have a real intention of doing it, we kind of built the platform in a way that it's not all immutable, but there's kind of a fair amount, or I forget what the term is now, ephemeral. So the idea is that if we tweak the scoring, or we just change some logic, or we realize there was a bug or whatever it might be, we can basically like clear the data down and just start ingesting it again. So that's where we have to sort of be a little bit careful as well. Just so it's why we're thinking of having some kind of snapshotty type approach to record, like, okay, the top contributors for this year or for this quarter or whatever it was, and make sure that that gets kind of really encased in stone.
Yeah, and I think, and a big part of that would be like, if say I am the contributor, I'm just using Patrick as an example, why not? If you wanted to show like on, like, let's say LinkedIn, you wanted to show like your achievement badge level, or if you had a spot in the top contributors, right? In like a static page like this, if you want to be able to keep that history and that link moving forward, I don't want it to constantly change on a leaderboard view. You might want to have something in your individual profile, or a page with the top contributors where you can point to, and then you get to keep that history. It's not going to change. I think that
That's
would
a
be better
good point.
for the individual, especially, we're working with more students, trying to get more students to contribute and being able to use that contribution experience when they're applying for jobs. They should have an easy way to showcase their work and their achievements. And, an ever-changing leaderboard is probably not the easiest way to do that.
Absolutely, yeah. So I found the thing that's causing an error
Oh, nice. Your page
is a null.
Okay.
So this goes back to what I was saying about the weird sort of, I don't know, ephemeral nature of it. So whilst there's a relationship between like the users in the platform and the rewards, it's not a like there's not a constraint on there to prevent you deleting a user. It won't delete the reward. So I think that's probably what's happened, is that we've like had a user that's been blocked or deleted, and there's still a reward, and it's basically a sort of null reference type thing. So yeah, that's I'll probably just tidy the record up at some point, but I will have to think of a fix for it going forwards and figure out whether we do enforce that referential integrity, or do we just render like the user ID here instead of the username, or how do we approach it?
Glad we were able to discover that one on this call, Lee.
What's that?
I said glad we were able to discover that on this call.
Yeah. I'm just. Oh, okay. I've got an interesting branch checked out. I was trying to figure out. I couldn't log in to. I was hoping I might be able to fix that, although we've got like.
Well, would you want to make it into an issue on the platform, and we could present it up to anyone in the community to pick up?
So yes, I think that's a great idea. They're not going to be able to fit. I mean, they potentially could, but I can do like a quick fix with the data itself to stop that error. But then we do need a sort of longer term fix with the actual the browse code to prevent that scenario occurring again, and or to kind of tidy them up. So yeah, that's a great idea.
And then I was going to ask this too, because we were talking about the session about the platform. Is there a link in the README, I think, to issues for working on the platform? I thought I saw something somewhere.
So I mean, you've got the issues on the left-hand side there. We don't
Maybe it was in the contributing file. Yeah, you had a link in the contributing file to the issue tracker, I guess, which is
nice.
Again, I'm not sure how many of these are available to be grabbed, but we can do a better job of trying to curate that and make sure that there's opportunities to work on the platform. And fairly easy to get up and running locally with this. If you can handle the Docker, which if I can handle it, I think anyone can handle it. But yeah, that's thanks Lee for helping me to get started on this, and I
You'll
can
tweak
push up
that,
a minor.
yeah. Yeah, if you're happy to kind of get those columns reordered, and if there's fix the links and bits and pieces and ping it over to me, or again if someone, maybe if you want to pop it in Discord once you got an MR, if you make sure you create it on the community fork, and if anyone wants to have a poke at trying to get the width issue, I think I know how we'll be able to do it, but happy to let someone else have a stab, and then go from there.
Stop the share. Would anyone have any questions on anything or anything else to share?
Myself,
something else.
Go ahead. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah, I just wanted to like share an idea I had, just if there was any thoughts on it. Because like I've been working on like the GraphQL, like looking into that stuff. And like I'm not sure if you guys are familiar. I'm sure you've looked at like the GraphQL terminal. It's like we used to like like test out the GraphQL queries and stuff. I was thinking like of an idea where instead of like, because like there's a lot of GraphQL like schemas that GitLab has, and like what if we could integrate like Duo or like some other like natural language to like GraphQL like query creator, like something like you could just ask GitLab Duo in GraphQL like, oh, create this query to generate like a to like search for like the vulnerabilities in this project. Like it could generate that.
I think that's a pretty cool idea,
yeah.
and worth poking around with. What I would have you looked at? I think you've probably seen, because I did some pairing earlier in the week on it, and I've shared a few links and that. But you're aware of our GitLab query language?
GitLab query language. I'm not actually. I think I saw that you were.
So we have something.
The...
We abbreviate to GLQL for GitLab query language, and that's a bit of a. I use the term natural language. I don't fully know what the official definition for that is, but it's a much more. This GLQL does allow you to write a much more sort of. It's almost like a YAML-y type syntax, like a much simpler query. And then GLQL is like there's a compiler or a transpiler or whatever you want to call it that converts your GLQL query into a GraphQL query. So let me show you quickly. You probably won't, what it's like when you put on the spot. We'll try it.
Yeah, I just pulled it up on documentation. So you can just put this into like you could put this into the terminal and it'll just convert it.
Yeah, so we've got one which is awesome. I was hoping we'd have an example. So you can see here's our query, our GLQL query that essentially says, display me a table with these fields for this project, and where the label is in this lot, and the state is open, or it is open, and that renders this little table. And if you have a look in here, you should see that executes the GraphQL query. And you can't really interpret that. I don't know if there's a nice way, but you can see that it's a GraphQL query essentially. So, and the project, because I actually made a contribution to it literally earlier in the week. This is the GLQL. It's actually a Rust. I don't know what you call it. Rust library, which compiles. It's like compiles to a WASM that runs in the browser, and that's what essentially converts the GLQL query into a GraphQL query. So you might want to have a little bit of a look at that, but I still like the idea of like using AI to generate GraphQL queries. Essentially, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, especially because GLQL is, yeah, I would say really limited in scope in relation to what the GraphQL API is actually capable of.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited at the moment. I think it does like epics, issues, merge requests, work items. That might be it. Like I'm really excited for when it can do. You mentioned there, Patrick, vulnerabilities, CRM contacts, time logs. Like that's the vision. I think is that you will be able to query any objects across GitLab.
Did you say this was running something in the browser? It was running the.
Yeah, so I hope that in the docs here there'll be a link probably to like the original blueprints, and it was previously written in Haskell. Definitely there's the commands in here, and you can see somewhere where so you can run a little thing in the browser, like in your development environment, and you can see that this cargo, I think, is a Rust tool. I don't pretend to know Rust or just enough.
Like bundler or so for Rust,
awesome.
as far as I know.
So, and then you install this Wasm pack, and then Wasm pack is used to build a Wasm like a. Yeah, I think it stands for WebAssembly or something, a library that then like you kind of import with npm. But it's like, yeah, it's Rust and it's super fast, and yeah, it's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely look into this, yeah.
And I'll share in Discord the link to the recording from earlier in the week, because that was where I made a contribution to that project essentially. And in fact, that was to the GLQL library, which basically converts the GLQL query to a GraphQL query, and then my MR is open and hopefully it'll be merged in the next day or so to then do the kind of bit to get that into GitLab. So yeah, I'll be able to show you the whole like end to end in the next couple of days as well. Yeah. Awesome. Stefan, did you have something that you were wanted to ask?
Yeah, I was curious about the format of this meetups, and because I think there is one Tuesday and one Thursday.
Tuesday one's a little bit more like EMEA friendly. This one's a little bit more sort of America's friendly. Format is very like open, if that makes sense. So like we like to do some coding and some pairing, but at the same time, sometimes it's more of an exercise of trying to flesh out an issue. Sometimes it will be trying to find issues, to curate them, to like it really depends on if you've got something that you want to bring to the table. Maybe you're working on an MR and you need some support, or yeah, we're pretty open.
Because I was looking mainly at this personalized homepage, which is one of the projects that seems to be open for the contributing part of the Google Summer of Code.
So that's the only exception I'd say, is that I don't know, Daniel, if you can give a little bit more context. I'm personally not involved with the Google Summer of Code project, and I think that it's very much kind of run as a standalone thing, sort of outside of our. Can you elaborate on that at all? Or?
Yeah, I mean, was this one of the idea issues? Was the one you're talking about, Stefan? Was a personalized homepage? Was that on the ideas list?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, we can't really like give too much direct guidance for applicants to Google Summer of Code, other than here's the documentation. you have to apply on Google Summer of Code, of course. If you look at those lists of the idea list from GitLab, you can engage in the specific issues, ask any questions. I'd say at the, if you want to get started on ideas and things, that's always helpful to show, but do it publicly, transparently in the issue, and then make your application through Google Summer of Code. All the applicants will get reviewed by GitLab, and that's how people will be chosen. So you have to definitely go through the Google Summer of Code site to do all that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
And like once that all kicks off and applicants are chosen, and then they get matched up with mentors, then you work on those projects with GitLab mentors, and you're part of the community too. So you can definitely utilize the GitLab community Discord. You get the same sort of resources and tools that every other community contributor has to work on things. You just also have that extra guidance of a GitLab mentor.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for elaborating, and thanks for driving today, Daniel. Thanks everyone for joining, and enjoy the rest of your days.